Hey, what is going on, ladies and gentlemen? I'm Piglet here once again, and I'm messing around with the menu while using the C-stick. Hey, Piglet, just keep it down, will ya? Oh, sorry, Mickey. Hey, it's me, Mickey Mouse here, and we are back for the Maxi Toys. And welcome back to more Let's Play of Super Smash Bros. Melee for the Nintendo GameCube. So previously, yesterday, we actually did done Classic Mode as Donkey Kong. And today for this episode, we're about to be trying out a new mode introduced in this game called Adventure Mode. And it says in the description, battle through various stages, which means this is probably the most highlighted mode in the game. You'll see why when we actually get into action. So, for this particular mode, we're only going to pick the newcomers introduced in this game somehow. We're not going to pick the exact same characters as from... Well, we're not going to pick all the characters in all three modes because that will take way too long. But I digress though. So the first newcomer in Super Smash Bros. Melee we're about to be selecting, we'll start from the already unlocked characters, from already get from the get-go characters from the newcomers. So let us begin. Well, actually, just about to start up with the evil King Koopa himself, Bowser. Oh, jeez, Bowser, man. I don't know why he was actually in that, but somehow he did manage to come across into Melee. So, and also just like the ones in the original game, you can actually alternate your colors whenever you wanted to, and rather than just use the C stick or C buttons, unlike the N64 installment, because this time you can press X and Y buttons to actually change alternate colors and all that kinds of stuff. So much like Classic Mode, we're gonna have to go through normal mode just because we feel like it. And also 5 stocks will be a nice additional way. So, this is how Adventure Mode works, ladies and gentlemen. Basically, you come across into very different Nintendo worlds. Like, for instance, we're actually on Stage 1 Mushroom Kingdom, which is essentially a Super Mario universe. And then, basically the entire, Mushroom Kingdom itself is pretty simple. Basically, we have to make our way to the end of the level. That's all you really do. And what's cool about this is that Bowser's gonna take down all of his minions, although sort of he does before since, let's just say Paper Mario, or in this case Super Paper Mario if you will, and although technically Bowser did actually already take down those X-Knots from Paper Mario the Thousand Year Door, but even then though, it's pretty cool to see how Bowser's gonna beat the likes of his creatures and all that kinds of stuff, which is pretty impressive. And also the same with the likes of the other characters too, which, for what I've knowledge, that I think this will actually be one of my favorite modes in the entire Super Smash Bros. Franchise, at least in the single-player campaign anyway, because again, what's cool about this adventure mode is the fact that you come across into all of Nintendo worlds, whatever depends on what fighter you're using. It was actually pretty cool. So every once in a while you come across into a certain battle sequence, like for instance the first stage, which is Mushroom Kingdom. It looks pretty cool to see how there's actually a Mario Golf reference in the background, which is pretty impressive. So yeah, you beat the likes of these multicolored Yoshis, and then once you actually defeat all of them, you will proceed to the goal. So, and also dodging those paratroopers and Goombas and all that kinds of stuff. Now, the reason why we decided to let our time count reach up to units-wise to 2 minutes, or in this case 2 seconds, well, if you manage to get to that point, this happened. The Super Smash Bros. Nostalgic soundtrack right here. But rather than you actually fighting against with Mario in this battle sequence where it takes place in Princess Peach's castle, we also managed to try to fight against Peach and Luigi as a replacement. I found these specific replacement cutscenes are pretty hilarious, I find, because usually if Mario was about to jump in to defeat Bowser, but Luigi decides that, nope, I'm going to deal with Bowser by myself rather than you, Mario, because you already defeat Bowser like number of times, even 1,000 times if you will. That's what Luigi thinks. At least if you're expecting to actually fight against with Bowser and use Super Luigi U nonetheless. So, yeah, for this fight, all you have to do is pretty simple, just have to take those opponents down, and then once you do that, then this stage is clear. So, and after when you're done with these stages, you'll be moving on to the next level. Like, I believe The next stage we might actually go into, I think it was actually the new stage we're about to be running to, and that was Congo Jungle, not to be confused as Congo Jungle for the Nintendo 64 version, but this is nothing compared to the likes of the N64 counterpart, because in the background it takes place in some sort of like a river raft. So yeah, that's far as how this levels goes. As well as some bit of platforms here and there, and as well as that though, there's no sunset involved. But unless though, there does have a brief barrel canyon to actually launch you back up to the stage you go. And then, yeah, that's all there is to it. And now we move on to another new type of stage known as Jungle Japes. This stage appears a lot in the Super Smash Bros. Latest game so far. Like, it did reappear in Super Smash Bros. Brawl as a part of the... I'm pretty sure it's an unlockable stage, I think. And as well as the new Smash Bros. 4, specifically onto Nintendo 3DS version rather than just the Wii U version, because considering how the Wii U version actually has some bit of different stages compared to the 3DS version, so that makes perfect sense. So in this particular battle, you're going to have to deal with Giant Donkey Kong, very similar to how it does it for the first game's first boss. So anyway, that does it for that stage. The third stage we're about to be hit into is the Underground Maze, where we're going to have to figure out... the ultimate goal for this particular level is to find a Triforce, and then every time when you find a Triforce, that's how you end the level. So this basically feels like a maze syndrome. So basically, if you saw one of these little Master Swords hanging onto this little stole, this means you might actually try to go ahead and fight against with Link, and there's some sort of like a weird odd shape, really odd background right there. It's something more likely a vortex. But I digress though, if you beat one of those links here, then you can actually proceed. So that's all you essentially do for this part. And he explodes himself by the automatic Baban. And also you got these very familiar enemies from The Legend of Zelda, specifically Ocarina of Time mostly, because these, you know, these little zombie-like creatures, they immediately come from The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time nonetheless. Oh, but there's actually a bonus to it, actually. Like, I think we already encountered there was actually Luigi KO bonus, but basically just, you know, KO Luigi in the second segment of the Mushroom Kingdom. So basically what the adventure mode can do also is the fact that you can actually just these stages can broken off into a few different segments, like in this case 2 segments. Ah, crap, we actually did die for the first time around. That's a bit unfortunate, really. I know. If only if we could just potentially not die while in mini form, nonetheless. So yeah, as far as you guys can tell already, that I'm presuming the Mega Mushroom as well as the Poison Mushroom are introduced in the new items introduction to this game in this Smash Bros. Series. So, and if we come towards here, and if you see that Triforce, as I said, that's how the level ends. I believe you can't get a bonus for that level while basically doing with all the Link battles, so unfortunately we couldn't do that because, although granted though, the level itself can give you like, let's say 8 minutes time limit, so even then though, you do have some bit of time involved. However, the goal, the finishing line goal can be randomized, so with that being said, that every time when it depends on what characters you select, that the goal, in this case a Triforce location, can locate it randomly. So after when you deal with that little maze level, then you're gonna have to fight against with a newcomer in the lineup in the Smash Bros. History, known as Zelda, the Princess of Hyrule. In this case, represents her Triforce, or for that matter, it will have to be the Triforce of Wisdom. And then the Link can be belong from the Triforce of Courage, and then the evil Demon King himself, Ganon, represents the Triforce of Power. So, speaking of Ganondorf, that Ganondorf makes it a playable character in this game here, so... But again, we'll talk more into the unlockable stuff as soon as we actually talk through these modes first, and then we actually try to go ahead and, you know... So there we go, we beat up the likes of a Zelda right there. Now if you see that a few moments ago, that Zelda actually has the ability to actually have herself transform into something more likely a different character. Her name was actually Sheik, where Sheik, whose first appearance was in The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. So, yeah, pretty cool nonetheless to actually have not one, but two characters into one slot, which is kind of cool. Anyways, the fourth stage we're about to be hit into is Brimstar, and basically this was Samus's level. It's a bit like how it does it from Planet Xavius from the original game, but except the notable difference is that obviously that you can see in the background there is actually a really weird goopy thing right there. And also, just like Planet Zebes from the original game, that if you touch one of those little hot lava stuff, you're probably going to get hurt, and plus you will actually get damaged by that, so... Oh, come on! I seriously hate explosions! God damn it, why are these bombs in existence? Granted, bombs do make a return from the first game though. And after when you deal with Samus Saran, which she is essentially the returning character in the original game as well, this means we have to occasionally, every once in a while, we're gonna have to get the heck out of here, just like the ones in the original 2D Metroid games, where it's basically a self-destruct sequence. So we're gonna have to make our way to the escape pod, in this case all the way up to the top, which brings kind of reminds me like a referencing of the original 2D's Metroid franchise, which is really nice. So, it can be quite tricky though, especially in Bowser's case, as you can see here, that sometimes the platforms themselves can get slightly narrow at points. But nonetheless though, we made our way out of here, so there you go. So now the planet Zebes has been fully exploded, and somehow we managed to go onto Dreamland. And the next stage we're about to be into is Green Greens. Somewhat feels identical to Dreamland from the first installment. But except a noticeable difference is that obviously there is actually blocks this time around in the actual stage. As well as that though, that Wispy Woods is actually a lot smaller than it used to be back in the original game, although it functions as the same way as it does it for Dreamland 64, but except that, well obviously you have to deal with those star blocks to deal with. Don't use the ground pound though, because otherwise you'll lose a life. For that matter anyway. In addition to actually deal with just a simple Kirby, that means we're actually going to be coming across into multiple Kirbys while they're actually using Kirby hats. Because yes, Kirby hats do make a return from the original game, sure enough, there is. But unlike how it does in the original game, that you're going to have to fight 8 of them, instead, that you're actually going to be fighting 15 of them, which is quite a lot, because even then, because of the ability, although probably because of they consist of a lot more playable characters this time, so that makes perfect sense from my knowledge. After when you beat multiple Kirbys in under 30 seconds, then you get yourselves a next fight. We have ourselves a giant Kirby right here to face off against. So this only happens when you actually deal with the multiple, in this case Team Kirby, consists of 15 of them once you beat them under 30 seconds. But if you don't, however, you probably ended up missing their battles. So, and I believe this is also another consist of whenever you get such a giant, in this case multiple bonus points and stuff like that once you deal with him. So, it consists of, you're actually going to be just dealing with giant Kirby, and if you finish him off, then you can actually say, well, giant Kirby KO, so yeah, that makes it more of a to delve for. Kind of a tricky fight though, I have to say right there, as far as at this point right now, although we're kind of a little bit careful with that little parts, especially if we accidentally use the ground pound to destroy the star blocks, and not to mention, you have to keep an eye on the bomb blocks, and you don't want to accidentally hit them, so yeah, just to keep that in mind. Alright, so here we are at Cornera, which is basically the exact same thing as Sector Z, but except it's in daytime. And right off the bat though, that we're going to be facing off against with Fox McCloud here, the leader of the Star Fox Reunited group. And yeah, that's all there is to it. So yeah, how about that? Easy as cake.
Fox, are you alright?
Looks like we're just in time.
Sheesh, you're such a pain.
Now, there's going to be rare moments where there's also another bonus you can actually encounter in this stage. Is the fact that I found this to be kind of random, because usually most of the time, the most common fights that you're actually going to be fighting against is easily Fox McCloud. However, there's also another character you can actually face off against, known as Falcor, but there I found other times though, for me anyway, I found it to be quite luck-based to actually think if I was going to fight against either Fox again or Falco for a first time around, but sometimes I found myself this to be the case. So anyway, so now we move on to Stage 7, known as Pokemon Stadium. It sort of feels more likely quite a nice looking level. Even then though, I kind of missed the Salvation City from the original game though, I have to admit though, because I found that stage back then was actually pretty impressive, because you were fighting against with the Pokemon playable characters during the city, in this case some buildings, but instead we actually got ourselves a Pokemon Stadium, which just kind of reminds me, or in this case not to be confused as Pokemon Stadium as opposed to the Nintendo 64 3D Pokemon spin-off series. But I believe the first game did sort of came out in, at least in English anyway, did manage to came around in 1999, I'm assuming? Well, I don't know in Japan though, because my only consists of there was actually the second game in the series, at least in Japan anyway, although correct me if I'm wrong though. So what you do for this particular stage, you face off against with multiple Pikachus most likely, and there are occasional moments where you go to fight against with Jigglypuff and Pichu, assuming you've actually unlocked those two first. I don't know about Mewtwo though, I'm kind of more considered that. But in that particular stage, there are constant Pokeballs that actually pop out of nowhere, or in this case pop out everywhere. So this means it kind of reminds me like a Pokemon battle syndrome. So yeah, pretty simple. Alright, so here we go with the 8th stage, known as F-Zero Grand Prix. And basically what's cool about this level is the fact that we can actually ride, or in this case walk on F-Zero X Blue, Big Blue level, which is pretty cool. But you gotta have to be careful though, because you don't want to accidentally touch by, or in this case, you don't want to get hurt by these F-Zero vehicles. Because if you somehow manage to get hurt by these F-Zero vehicles, you're more likely going to get hit a lot. Especially noticeable in this case here. Oh crap, something just like that happened. You know, there are plenty of times when you might actually just have found yourself to actually just to get knocked back a curve. Oh yeah, that kind of reminds me like of bad memories whenever I was trying to struggle with Bowser in Adventure Mode. Because I could never seem to pass this section with those little tiny narrow platforms when I was young. But back then, whenever I first got the game, I could never pass it with Bowser though. But yeah, that was pretty much a, you know, first time players out there seem to notice what that happened back then. So anyway. And up to when you make your way to the finish line before actually avoiding those F-Zero vehicles, you manage to actually try to fight against with Captain Falcon, which we already fight him from before, but unfortunately we lost the start due to the fact that the Captain Falcon is actually quite fast, and also quite tricky to actually just dodge. So there we had Mute City again. We've already been to this place for a 3rd time. But basically the stage actually works out. It's basically an auto-scrolling, in this case a autopilot stage, where you're gonna have to use that little platform at all times. But it's also the same with likes of the other stage from Super Smash Bros. Brawl, but won't discuss that until when someone else is gonna do that playthrough, or some toys rather. Alright, the next stage we actually hit into is the Onits, where basically Ness has his own stage. And I believe this stage 2 makes a comeback from Super Smash Bros. Brawl and eventually Super Smash Bros. For the Wii U. So, yeah, it might be a pretty simple stage just to begin with. But honestly, I don't find this stage aren't that much intrusive anyway for me. Because for one, that the arena itself is actually a lot smaller compared to the likes of New Pork City from Brawl, which I found that stage quite humongously, disgustingly huge. But that's just me. So all you do in this stage, basically just fight against with those 3 variations of Nesses. I don't know why they have not actually put in the green nest somehow, unless if you actually play as him in Adventure Mode, that makes perfectly counted for. And yeah, there are constants, I believe I'm presuming there are some of the Mr. Saturn looking items, which are the new items that you choose in this game. So anyway, moving on to Icicle Mountain Stage 10, and this is by far, as I established earlier, from when we actually fight against with Ice Climbers twice in a classic mode. This was actually probably my least favorite. This is can't speak today. This is without a doubt one of my least favorite levels of the entire game. The reason why it's that is because, well, it's an auto-scrolling level. So if you manage to die by the auto-scrolling level, assuming if you stay onto the bottom, you're more likely going to screwed yourself over. It's especially noticeable when you're actually trying to fight against with someone, and if you knocked back by the far right or the far left, you'd probably be best to actually trying to avoid the some stuff at all times. Well, granted, in this particular location right there, mainly this little sequence here is the fact that you can actually just avoid those familiar enemies from the Ice Climber game for the NES. And then eventually when the faster side-scrolling stops, this means you're now going to be able to fight against with those two Ice Climbers. So even then though, that makes it more doubtful. But anyway, so once you deal with all these two Ice Climbers right there, then you should be able to move on to the next level. So in this case, stage 11, as far as I'm concerned. Because basically Adventure Mode has a grand total of 12 different levels to explore on, which you'll see when we get into it. Stage 11, Battlefield. Granted, we've been to this stage 4 times in a row at this point, but basically in these segments, you're going to have to fight against with those very familiar persons, or familiar fighters anyway. These are known as the wired-framed fighters, which they look very similar to how it does it for fighting Polygon Team from the first game, but except they're all wired-framed instead of polygons and all that kinds of stuff. Or else back in Brawl, that it usually just comes as like Techno Syndrome or something like that, but I digress. And now we're fighting against with not Metal Mario, but Metal Luigi as well. But funny thing about this is that once you actually start up the game off, and assume you actually have yourselves a fresh file in Super Smash Bros. Melee, you always have to fight against with Metal Mario to begin with. However, if you actually unlock Luigi, which unlocking Luigi, well, we'll explain more into that as soon as we actually get to these characters first. So anyway, so if you actually unlock Luigi, you have the ability to actually fight against with the Metal Mario Brothers, which is kind of nice. But even then though, it kind of reminds me like I was playing Super Smash Bros. 64 all over again, but except that in addition to actually fighting against with Metal Mario, which is essentially the returning boss from the original game, and as well as the new boss we managed to encounter that, which was Metal Luigi, which is basically the same thing as Metal Mario, but just with taller differences and all that. Oh my goodness, there's actually one heck of a giant battle between Giant Bowser and Giant Mario. Gee, I wonder who might as well win! Oh crap, we only got 1 life left, in this case 1 stock left. However, if you imagine if bad things can happen, it's the fact that once we actually, there we go, now it deals it with him. That if we actually got somehow lost 1 life, this means we get ourselves the first game over in this particular playthrough. But I digress. Let's just concentrate on the last stage in particular, Adventure Mode, which was the final destination. And every time when you actually go to get to this stage, you always have to fight against with the bigger variation of Bowser. And what's really weird is the fact that what's this kind of cool is that Bowser, where we're going to be playing right now, he's actually fighting himself a doppelganger, which is pretty weird. But all you do in this fight is pretty simple. Sometimes though it can be tricky sometimes, because especially noticeable in normal mode where you're playing. This means is that Bowser can actually do a lot of quick dodges. So, ooh, Scizor. I think Scizor will have to be one of the more obscure Pokemon you can actually unleash from. But every now and then, yeah, as soon as you're actually trying to knock down Bowser, specifically the amount of seconds you have time left, you should be able to deal with him just that. Now, when it says game clear originally, no, this was actually stage clear as it says on the notification. You know what that means? It's the fact that once you actually beat the final fight with Giant Bowser, this might be something very interesting to happen. Well, right off the bat though, we managed to win by the evil clutches of the doppelganger himself. Oh wait, the battle wasn't over yet. And somehow the lightning strikes. Holy crap. That is the most freakiest looking Bowser I've ever seen in my entire life. This, ladies and gentlemen, is probably, in my honest opinion, the true final boss in Super Smash Bros. Melee, especially in the Adventure Mode's case. He is known as Giga Bowser. This is basically a giant, much more gigantic version of Bowser himself, but even then though, he is hard as fudge. Like, you see why when as soon as we actually just to get dive from him nonetheless. In fact, we actually did not make up to up B attack as much as we can do, which is unfortunate. Well, here goes our first game over with the playthrough, ladies and gentlemen. But even though, we did try nonetheless though, but well, hopefully we might actually give ourselves a second chance to actually trying to go ahead and deal with Giga Bowser nonetheless. Assuming if you actually don't lose your too many stocks too much. So, that's what it all depends on. Oh crap, Ivysaur, or in this case Bulbasaur, or something like that. I don't know, we haven't really looked up on too many names of the Pokemon in recent years. So I really do apologize. So yeah, we completely forgot to mention about Bowser's movesets. Basically, the B button attack is basically just a fire breath attack, and then if you press up B, you can actually do a disc spin, which is essentially a double jump, so in this case, you can do like a third jump, or in this case a disc spin or something like that, so you can actually just recover yourself from the battle. And then also, that if we actually do a down B, like we did a few moments ago, you can actually do a Bowser Bomb. And then finally, the side B attack can actually deal with like Bowser Claw. So if you go near to an opponent or something like that, then you should be able to snag one of your opponents and then try to deal with these opponents that way. So, good thing we're gonna actually trying to fight against with Giga Bowser for a second time. So even then though, we'll give ourselves a second chance for that anyway. But even then though, he's essentially the hardest fight in the game, mostly because he was actually a lot tougher than the original Bowser model. And even then though, his attacks are way too much. Especially noticeable if you actually do a Bowser Bomb or anything. Well, speaking of Big Giga Bowser's movesets, it feels very similar to how it does it for how Bowser works out. What? That's really unfair. Anyway, I think this variation of this Giga Bowser theme will have to be the most really badass looking soundtrack nonetheless, because it feels more likely. Even though Giga Bowser do make a return in the future installments, sure enough in Brawl and 4, but they act out as final smashes from Bowser. So anyway, so that concludes the adventure mode as Bowser, and we got ourselves a special bonus for that matter, Giga Bowser KO, and we got a crap ton of points. So yeah, that concludes that. And now we actually get ourselves a game clear for reals. And every now and then, Bowser's Trophy, essentially the adventure version of Bowser's Trophy from before, did actually explode. Because yes, when you actually deal with the first fight with Bowser's, but basically he just get himself a classic mode trophy out of the way. But then if you try to fight against with Giga Bowser and if you defeat him, the Bowser from the adventure mode trophy did actually manage to got exploded. So yeah, I gotta say, that was actually a pretty intense fight though, despite the fact that we actually got ourselves a first continue for this playthrough, in this case the first game over in either way. But not aggressive, because we already unlocked everything for this game has to offer. But in fact, we actually managed to play this game quite a lot of times, especially consist of how this is actually probably my favorite Nintendo GameCube game we've ever seriously got. Yeah, which is true. Alright, 47 hits on those little text. And look at Bowser's little coolest tricks ever. Even then though, Bowser's first appearance was none other than Super Mario Bros. From the original NES, just to let you know. And there's actually a pretty cool image right there. These different sizes of Bowser's right here. One is actually huge, one was medium, and another one which is small. Yeah, it's kind of interesting. So, yeah, so I'm guessing we're just gonna have to end things. Oh, actually, before we actually just to end things off right here, we're pretty much gonna have to show you guys the, Bowser's Target Smash level, so that, just like the ones in Super Smash Bros. LP back in 2015, after we actually end things off with adventure mode and certain newcomers, especially some characters, which we'll get into that in a moment, because we might actually show you guys how the different character target levels actually looks like. So we might as well just have to do that. So for Bowser's target smash level, it kind of reminds me of something more likely a Greek, or in this case a Greek style of target smash level, which I'm really quite surprised by, because yeah. So all you do for this target test is pretty simple and easy to operate, you know, trying to actually just, you know, don't go to the bottomless pit or anything, because otherwise you will end up missing a chance while completing it. So, yeah. So yeah, that's all I can say about Adventure Mode, as well as Bowser in general in Super Smash Bros. Melee. So I digress though. So we'll finish off with just a complete of the target test. So yeah, how about that? But even though we didn't beat our record of time though. So anyways, we're gonna have to end things off here. So next time we'll let's play Super Smash Bros. Melee is the fact that we return back to classic mode and pick some more classic characters. So see you guys then. Later fellas.